Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's show, why the Texans will most likely run it back with offensive coordinator Nick Caley. Plus, we've got some NFL coaching news from around the league. We'll discuss that on today's program because there's a lot of movement happening, and a lot of that movement entails basically Nick Caley staying with the Houston Texans for one more season at the least at the OC spot. Before we get into all that, though, make sure to follow me on all my social media accounts. I'm tweeting and posting about the Houston Texans, about NFL moves that are being made. So if you want the fastest updates, the most quick way to reach all the information that I'm putting out there, it's on my social media accounts. So give me a follow on X at Jeremy Chuggs, IG. This is my Texans Today IG, Texans Today CS, and then I'm also on TikTok at Jeremy Chuggs. All right, let's get into some social media posts. First up, Dianna Russini put this out there. The Dolphins have requested to interview Texans quarterback coach Jerrod Johnson for their offensive coordinator role. Now, this is going to be pretty interesting because I've mentioned before on the show, I think Jerrod Johnson could be a scapegoat for this Houston Texans team because they're going to want to change something on the offensive coaching staff side. And as I mentioned, I don't think it's going to be the offensive coordinator, Nick Caley. So the next guy up, probably Jerrod Johnson. I really do hope he gets an offensive coordinator role because I think he's definitely deserved it. I don't think he's the reason why this Texans offense is struggling, but be interesting to see whether or not he gets that Dolphins job with new Dolphins head coach Jeff Hafley. Also, some more coaching news that's going down. I talked with our Cardinals host here at Chat Sports, and he told me they basically narrowed it down to three guys. Vance Joseph, the Broncos DC, Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks OC, and then Anthony Campanelli, which is the Jaguars defensive coordinator as well, which I'm actually pretty surprised because I was worried that the Cardinals were going to poach away the Texans defensive coordinator, Matt Burke. I mean, he coached there for multiple seasons as their defensive line coach in Arizona. He, called plays for the best defense in the NFL this year with the Houston Texans. So the fact that he didn't get a second interview, or the fact that he isn't in, maybe our Cardinals guy is wrong. Maybe he doesn't have all the information on it, but it sounds like the Cardinals are going in another direction and they're not going to end up hiring Matt Burke as their next head coach. I found that a little surprising that he didn't get a second interview, or that, he didn't kind of progress in that coaching search in Arizona, but, good for us, Texans fans. We love to see Matt Burke come back for another season and run it back with this defense. But I have a quick question for you. Where would you rank the Texans coaching staff? 1 to 32. 1, we have the best coaching staff in the NFL. 32, it's the absolute worst. And I want you to take into consideration everybody. Special teams, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach. Where would you rank the Texans coaching staff? This one's a tough one for me. I actually had to sit down and think about this for a little bit, but honestly, I think it's somewhere around maybe the 11 or 12 range because we have a great special teams coordinator in Frank Ross. I think DeMeco Ryans is a really good head coach. Matt Burke, an excellent defensive coordinator. OC, though, is where I really get hung up with Nick Caley. I don't think he's the top half of the league OC right now. Can he develop into that? Can he one day be one of the better OCs in the league? Sure. I don't think he's that right now. So I think that kind of bumps you down a couple spots in terms of entire coaching staff. I'd probably go 11 or 12 for the Houston Texans, but they still have a top half of the league coaching staff, if you ask me. All right, I have 4 reasons why the Texans are going to keep Nick Caley for at least one more season. First off, other coaches getting jobs. And I think this is maybe one of the biggest reasons why we won't see Nick Caley walk out of the door this offseason as the Texans offensive coordinator, because I think, the fact that there's multiple guys that maybe would be in consideration if the Texans did decide to fire Nick Caley, those guys are already getting other jobs. Like we already talked about on the show, Mike McDaniel earlier this week said if he doesn't get a head coaching job, he's going to go with the LA Chargers. Eric Bienemy with the Kansas City Chiefs. Brian Daboll, there's reports from Dianna Russini that he's either going to get the Bills head coaching job or He's going to be the Titans offensive coordinator. Zach Robinson already got the job with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as their OC, and then Tommy Rees, the former Browns OC, got the job with the Falcons. And I'm not saying really these two guys necessarily are the reason why the Texans, aren't going to fire Nick Caley. I don't think they would fire Nick Caley for Zach Robinson or Tommy Rees. But, these top three guys, probably a good reason why. I thought Mike McDaniel might be the number one candidate to replace Caley if they did want to move on. But he made it clear, if he doesn't get a head coaching job, he's going to the L.A. Chargers. So that might kind of push the hand of the Houston Texans of saying, okay, well, the guy, the grass doesn't look greener on the other side at this moment. So we're going to keep Nick Caley. We're going to keep him here in Houston. I have three more reasons why I think the Texans are going to keep Nick Caley for at least one more season. But, guys, I was born in 1996, and all my 90s babies, y'all will get me with this. That 30-year-old wall is coming quick. And when New Year hit, I kind of treated it like a reset. I wanted to feel energized again, not worn down. So I'm keeping it simple and doing something natural that supports my body where it needs it. Because, guys, I don't know if you knew this. Most men start losing testosterone around age 30, about 1% every year after that. That's why I'm taking Mars Men. Help your body unlock usable testosterone so you can feel like yourself again. Supports healthy T levels, energy, and stamina. There's 8 natural, clinically dosed ingredients, which, you love that. Natural ingredients. You don't want to be putting anything bad in your body. And it's made in the U.S. of A. And I love that there's a 90-day money-back guarantee. So if you don't like it, hey, what's there to lose? Start today with our friends over at Mars Men. And see, all that's included right there. There's no risk. Worst case, you don't absolutely love it and you get your money back. But over 91% of users report higher energy levels. Thousands of guys are feeling incredible results. Just check out the reviews on the website for yourself. For a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. It's a perfect way to kick off the new year strong. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts at checkout. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that the Texans Today and Chat Sports sent you over there. That would help us out a ton. But for real, go check it out. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off plus free shipping and 3 free gifts. All right, next up. And why I think Nick Caley is staying as the Texans offensive coordinator for at least one more season. The offense showed improvement this year. Now, it wasn't leaps and bounds. It wasn't the best offense in the NFL, but they allowed less sacks. Plus, they improved in their yards per game, running yards per game, points per game, and turnovers. All those areas the Texans got better at this season. And I know what you're all going to say. The one area of improvement that we really didn't see was the place that we wanted it the most, at the quarterback spot with C.J. Stroud. We need him to improve. And that might be the one kind of, counterpoint to keeping Nick Caley, because it didn't seem like C.J. Stroud got a ton better under new offensive coordinator Nick Caley. And, he's not really known as a quarterback whisperer per se. He was a tight end coach before coming over to be the Texans offensive coordinator. But I think, seeing some improvement in areas like that, if the Texans' offense was totally worse, yeah, I'd say they would go ahead and can him. But the fact that they improved, even if it was just marginally in multiple areas across the board, I think that's going to buy Nick Caley at least one more year as the Texans OC. Now, this is another question that I want to know from y'all. Do you think Nick Caley's better than Bobby Slowick? Bobby Slowick was the Texans offensive coordinator for the first 2 years under C.J. Stroud. Give me a yes, give me a no. Do you think the new OC, Nick Caley, is doing a better job than Bobby Slowick? Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Maybe a cop-out answer by me. I think unsure, incomplete. Bobby Slowick, he got a lot of flack for a lot of the Texans' offensive troubles last season. Nick Caley, I thought did, marginally better, but was it a vast improvement? No. It was a lot of different, guys on the offense as well in this Nick Caley system. So I think the fact that, they moved on from Bobby Slowick, they went to Nick Caley. The one issue that I have is that they're both first-time play callers, right? They're both first-time play callers, and it's it's tough to evaluate it because, my next point, you don't want too much turnover. And I'm not talking about the turnovers that CJ Stroud was throwing to the New England Patriots last week. I'm talking about turnover in terms of guys leaving the building and, only being here for one season, right? Because the thing is, when you hired Nick Caley, it kind of came with this, thought of he's a first-time play caller and there's going to be some, growing pains, some bumps in the road, right? And he did show some improvement throughout the season. I thought the first, 5-6 weeks compared to the rest of the season, we saw the offense get a little bit better each and every single week. And the thing is also, if you fire Caley, you can't bring in another first-time play caller. And as I showed you earlier, a lot of the, veteran OCs, a lot of the veteran play callers have already been kind of accounted for with other teams. So if you fire Nick Caley, there's no way. I mean, they might go this route, but I feel like there's no way you can go with another first-time play caller because we'll kind of run into the same problem. It's very rare that a first-time play caller is going to come in and light the league by storm and be this amazing, offensive coordinator. It happens, but the likelihood of that happening is, slim. And we saw that with Nick Caley where he started off kind of rough this season, but then got a little bit better each and every time. And maybe the main reason why we're getting one more year of Nick Caley, he's Casario's BFF. They're boys. They're boys. You think Caley and Casario are going to want to split up? No, of course not. Casario loves him some Nick Caley. And I know DeMeco Ryans is the ultimate team guy. He's the ultimate, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. I'm not going to air out any dirty laundry. He's a professional, a consummate professional, which, a reason why we love DeMeco Ryans. But at the end of the day, you can't tell me Nick Caley was not a Nick Casario hire, right? They went to the same college. They worked together for multiple seasons with the New England Patriots. He knew this guy very well. They were friends before this. So the fact that he brought him in as the new OC, this was a Casario hire. And as long as Casario is calling the shots, I think he's at least going to give him 2 seasons. He's not going to pull the plug after just 1 year with his guy and Nick Caley. Same with the O-line coach, Cole Popovich. They're boys. Casario likes his old, regime in New England, and as many guys that he can bring in from that regime, he's going to do so. I mean, hell, he even brought another, offensive assistant in Jerry Shaplinsky into the Texans staff this offseason. Another guy from that former Patriots regime. So the fact that Casario loves him some Nick Caley, that means there's not going to be any changes anytime soon. I was going to do an offensive coordinator replacements video, but it seems like the point is kind of mute. Like, they're staying with Caley. They're going to keep Caley for at least this season or, if it's horrible, maybe halfway through the year. But I don't foresee that happening. But Caley, he's sticking around for one more season. All right, that's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you want to hit me up on X, you can do so at Jeremy Chuggs. My DMs are always open. And if you made it to the end of today's show, make sure you hit that subscribe button for free Texans content all year long.